Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining today. Medway Council have, if you go to medway.gov.uk, you'll see a really beautifully designed landing page. If you can use that sort of terminology to how do you best design a service for users who are in desperate need and need to get something very quickly. And I think Medway are a good example of how they use service design and how they use content design to create something that's highly usable and very easy to get into. Really interested to hear more about how, Catherine, your team have responded to that. But also, you must have inquiries or have had inquiries coming from all over the place. Can you tell us a little bit more about that experience and how that landing page came to be?
Yeah, definitely. So, so a bunch of my guys are all here, so they'll chip in, I'm sure. We've obviously, when everything started to kick off, we created, as we tend to, a kind of central place for everything. So medway.gov/coronavirus, accessible as the announcement or the banner on every page. That section has grown and grown, as you would expect. The most popular parts are the council service updates. So as services open and close, we obviously jump straight on. That page we've iterated it. So now it's got a summary of the most recent changes at the top. You can easily see if services are open and closed without going into what we call the accordion. And we've reordered them, we've restructured them as more and more services have obviously had changes made to them. The other popular page is the business page, which was initially just a page of information, but again, that's grown. We've made a business support grants form, which is on the library as well, like most people, I'm sure. Following the government announcement, we quickly spun up, I think in sort of a day or two, that business grants support form. And it's really well used. So I think about 2/3 of our businesses locally have accessed that, and we've given away a good few £1 million already so far on that. So that seems to work well for us. We also, last week, after a little bit of wrangling, made live some pages around vulnerable people and how they can access food, medicine, services, initially through other sectors, but if they need us, there's ways into the council as well. As part of that, we've made a donations form, and thank you, Canterbury, if you're listening. They shared some code as well with us around a page that tells you X person has donated and they've given us this much. So thank you, Canterbury, for sharing your code with that. We're also in the process of building a payments form, of which we've got several, but one around shopping. So we've got a bunch of vulnerable people that we know of, and we've got their names and we're in direct contact with them. But there are other people that are perhaps less vulnerable but are isolating. Our leisure centres, like everybody else's, are closed. So we've redeployed our staff into that shopping delivery service, basically. While we're not advertising it, it's not live yet, but we won't be advertising it, but we are going to manage that through our call centre and through our public health team. But it allows them to coordinate payments into the council, have an audit trail of who's paid and who's paid what change we gave them back. It's just a bit more robust than the usual spreadsheets and what have you. So we're working on it at the moment because we don't want to do spreadsheets. In terms of the section that you're talking about, Suraj, it's really well used. So we did a little report on the 5th of April, since the 15th of March to the 5th of April. As a whole on the website, our website unique page views increased by nearly 50%. So the bit around recovery that I'm really interested in is how do we maintain that channel shift, to use a word that's slightly out of fashion now, but how do we maintain that and keep people there as we start having more people back into our contact centres, as we reopen our community hubs and libraries. I'm really interested to find out how others are maintaining that shift to online, because it's working for us at the moment. The coronavirus page in that time had 85,000 page views. The service updates page had 51,000. So we know it's really well used, that section in particular. For us, we've also been then putting messages on all of the other service pages as well, not just on that coronavirus landing page. So obviously, if someone Googles it and goes straight into the, local tip page, they can get similar information, but it all signposts back waste is definitely our most popular topic. So checking my bin collection day, the main waste and recycling homepage, all of our tips, they're the key bits that people have been accessing. We haven't changed any of our refuse collections, but still people are worried that it might change and are particularly interested in that waste side of things. The other things around libraries, obviously council tax and business rates as well. So yeah, we've had really good feedback. People are really positive that it's being kept up to date. Great job, guys. And just really pleased with the online services that we've been able to build, especially the business support grants. As I say, thousands of businesses so far using that one, so that's really positive. Just in terms of recovery, as I say, I think the thing for me is how do we maintain that culture of keeping people using the website. I think that's something internally we need to think about. We need to make more of our integration. So we've had Jadu for a couple of years now, and we've been focusing on obviously building up the website, building up online services. We're starting to have a think about integrations, and we've prototyped a couple of them, Confirm and Bartek. But I think with the waste being so popular, we knew it was, but increasingly, I think we're going to ramp up from our side how we do those integrations with systems like Confirm and Bartek in particular. I think we might be involved in testing, so I think that's just around the corner from us. And I know they're thinking of sites and how we manage that, so that will be one that I'll be keeping an eye on as well. And if we have anything, obviously put it on the library. There's conversations around business and vulnerable people. So obviously businesses at the moment getting support grants, I think they've said, depending on what the dip in the economy is, those businesses will change or may not come back. So as a council, kind of what support and guidance do we need to offer them? There's conversations about that happening at the moment. I can see that we might need to be involved in what that looks like. And vulnerable people as well. Obviously, people are in need at the moment, but again, depending on if they haven't got access to services still, if they haven't got access to other services that we don't run, if they haven't got a job, they're going to be more and more vulnerable people. So I think, again, we're going to have to support them. So again, there's conversations going on around those two areas. And from a really operational point of view, and I can hear my content guys shouting at me, we've had to, on the website, obviously change what's up there. And it means often taking information away, but also commenting it out, so hiding it away. I think one of the challenges we've got is how do we get that information back as good as it was before? How do we make those online services available in quite the same way that they were before, so that we know that the user journeys are still good? And I think we're going to have an interim period, it feels like, where some of the services will be open. They're still good. We're still going to need to obviously support people. So we've got a challenge amongst ourselves, and I think we've kind of managed it in quite a manual way, for want of doing anything else. As we've been hiding information away on the website or taking it off completely, we've got a job, I think, to get it all back on. And I'm thinking about, in particular, Soccer Team used to do their top tasks, and they had a kind of criteria of things that they would look through to make sure that those top tasks are really usable, accessible. So I think we might have to do something like that internally with our top tasks to make sure that inadvertently we haven't left out content, missed anything. So I'm going to talk to the guys next week about almost how do we kind of have that crib sheet of triple checking top tasks and almost rerunning our kind of user journeys on the top tasks to make sure when we're back that they are still spot on. I'm not sure there's anything from the technology side that we can help with there. But that's something I think we're going to have to work out as a team. So that's kind of where we are and what we're thinking about coming up. Out of the business and vulnerable people's meetings, I will share details because, as I say, I'm sure there's going to be loads of stuff for us to do on that. That's where we're kind of.
Thank you, Catherine. I mean, that was golden. I mean, I've got loads of questions, and I know there'll be questions on the chat as well. So if one of the team doesn't mind piping up, I'm not keeping an eye on the chat box, but if you can just have a look. Anyone who wants to ask Catherine a question, she does have to go in 5 minutes. Catherine, just, I mean, immediately, firstly, how do we get back to normal? I guess that depends on what normal is, and when normal comes back, you know, if it's 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. And just like you've iterated the site and it's constantly changing now to move towards response and recovery, I think you can probably iterate it, hopefully, back. You'll have time to then start looking at how things come back. Last week, we were talking about, well, actually, is this an opportunity for councils to really look at what services do come back? Because you've been very laser focused on delivering just the critical things. So is that a question that's happening at Medway at the moment?
Yeah, so I sit physically quite close to and work really closely with Jeremy, who's in charge of our customer and admin support team, and in particular the call centre. And that's the conversations that we're going to start having next week. Like, say, how do we bring those back, and which ones do we not bring back at all? And actually, you can only do them online. Really, historically struggled with that, particularly around our councillors that obviously want all of the channels to all of the services, but perhaps there's a bit more of a subtle way that we can kind of keep that shift going in the right direction. I think to support that, and I don't know when we can do that, because obviously we're still in the thick of all of the updates around coronavirus and things are constantly changing. We need to improve some of the forms that aren't Jadu forms that have been kind of holding us back slightly, and a lot of those are around waste, but that's where I mentioned about we're keen to kind of really push forward quite quickly on using our Confirm integration, using the Bartek integration as well, because we've got services in both. So I think if we can get those into much more usable and accessible forms in the style that we would want and that we've been building with Jadu, rather than the old forms package we've got on the site, then yeah, I'm really hoping that we can make it more desirable for people to come online, shall we say, less desirable perhaps through other channels as well. So yeah, that conversation with the contact centre lead is booked in and happening. We just need to find, I think, a subtle way of doing it so people don't feel like they've lost out.
You asked about how we maintain the engagement, and I think that's a critical question for digital teams. Are you seeing increasing numbers of account sign-ups on your website for your My Account solution?
I haven't checked our account. We haven't done an awful lot to it. We kind of switched it on a while ago now and kind of watched what happened. We then iterated, because we've got a lot of accounts as a council, online accounts, we kind of iterated what that looks like. We are seeing a lot of sign up for our Gov delivery system, which is obviously the email system that we use as a council. It's managed by comms, but they're seeing a massive kind of spike in traffic through those. They break it down by service, so I'm hoping that we can kind of make the most of that. One of the conversations, one of the points as part of the business conversation, is they're keen to build up more of a database of business contacts in the local area, and I think they're starting to see that. I'd like them to manage that through Jadu going forward. So as part of that business conversation that's happening next week, that's where I want to kind of take them, so that we can use much more of the kind of CXM element of Jadu and use that. But yeah, we're seeing great engagement from members of the public as well. I mean, we've got on most of our pages a feedback form down the bottom, and we are taking the statistics every morning. The wonderful team pull the statistics, they pull the feedback that's relevant, and we send that off to our Silver Command, and they can then analyse that. What's that telling us about what people are looking for? And then we're able to make sure that the website's up to date based on that feedback that we're getting. So we're trying to get them to kind of think back to, this is what people are asking for. Give us this information to put online. So that's been a really positive thing as well, I think.
Catherine, thank you. That's been immensely valuable. I know you've got to go in like 1 minute.
Sorry.
That's all right. Is the rest of the team on as well?
I think they are. So I think Lewis is here, Sue's here, Rachel, Jade. Yes. They've all been managing all of everything that I talked about is those guys really. So if anybody needs me, my email address is just my name as usual, medway.gov.uk. So do drop me an email, it's fine. And I'll catch up on the rest of this later on.
Thank you, Catherine. Thanks for joining this morning.
See you.